This is Fixed on Jesus.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fixed on Jesus podcast. My name is Rich, and I am hosting along with Mark Johnson Jr. here at Center Church. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing just terrible.
You are. You know what? If I cared, I would ask you why.
We might have to restart this one. He certainly cares, but I'm actually okay.
Yeah, I know you're okay because you're lying. So, friends,
Wow.
that was a lie that
It was
Mark
acting. It was poor, but it was acting.
was acting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Will you
And the
forgive me
voice-
for lying?
And the voice you hear over there is Heather Corbett. If I thought it was genuine, I would. But
Oh my
Heather
goodness.
Corbett, who she's responsible for editing this, and probably there'll be,
I
Just
could
leave it
put
in. It's
dancing
fine.
monkeys behind you. I could do. What
Ooh.
else would you like?
I don't.
You nailed my.
I tried.
You did.
I
Like I
tried.
remember, I was like, put it here, put it here, put it here. She nailed it.
She did.
She nailed it.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah, for
remember.
those of you wondering, Rich never ever watches
No.
these, so we have.
And you
to
know
tell
why?
him
I
so.
don't like to hear my voice recorded at all. It sounds like I
And
just don't.
so therefore, I feed it into his headphones, so he has
I
to
can
hear
hear a
it
little
while
bit of it, but like it sounds different. And so
Yeah.
I have never watched or listened to a Fixed on Jesus podcast,
Wow.
but I have
I sent you a
recorded
clip.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made me watch that one.
Yeah.
I have.
I do make you watch little clips. Too.
Yeah, little clips. That's right.
So if you're feeling generous and you're a regular listener, just send Rich a clip.
Yeah.
You know, he'd love to watch a clip of himself.
He'd love that.
So remember how Mark just asked us forgiveness for lying? My
Yeah.
forgiveness for lying. So
Do I owe forgiveness again?
I think you should ask. I mean,
For
everybody here watching and
oh,
listening.
oh, you mean
Rich would
like
love
more
it. Would
genuine
Rich
this time.
love it? Would Rich love it? Oh, okay.
Can I have your forgiveness?
We're not. That's not the topic. It's not
It's
forgiveness,
not.
and so
Okay. But you forgive me.
this is just like so artificial, Mark,
So what was the joke? It was fake it was fake sin and fake repentance.
and that's super hilarious, right?
Yeah.
Fake sin and fake repentance is like the funniest thing ever.
You know what? With that, I think I'm going to swish off the screen.
Okay. Well, so
All right,
we're not just gonna.
we're not going to just go back and forth.
Yeah, but we could.
We could, but we're not going to do that. I've been corrected before by people by being too mean sometimes to you.
You have some on-air sanctification going on.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
I need some for sure.
I will withhold comment. But what are we talking about? What are we talking about now, Mark?
So this is an email question. So I'm gonna hit the bell.
Boom. That's the email bell.
That's right. And this person wishes to remain anonymous. So that should just remind you that if you want to ask something anonymously, please let us know that.
And they can email us at
Production@centergilbert.com.
that is weird.
I'm not going to put the words in your hand. I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it.
Okay, that's really weird.
It's so weird. You're just going to look really weird on screen.
I already do. So what's new?
Okay. So what is this anonymous person's
Yeah.
question?
So a whole series of questions, actually 10 of them.
10.
They're all surrounding one topic though, and it's
Okay.
Parachurch Ministries
Yes.
or Parachurch. Can we just start before I dive into some of those and just describing what that is?
Yeah, sure. A parachurch ministry is an organization that seeks to come alongside and either assist or equip a church for a particular kind of ministry. And so it's not a church. Para means come alongside or alongside. And that's what that is. So like campus ministries, Johnny and Friends, you've got a whole host of
Yeah.
counseling organizations. Like that's an example. You have counseling organizations that train people on how to counsel
Yeah.
the hurting. That's a parachurch organization.
We have one or two of those here. Would you put those in that category? Like Hope for Addiction?
Hope for
Or
Addiction
P82?
is P82, Hope for Addiction.
Yeah.
Those are both parachurch ministries.
Yeah.
Seminary is a parachurch ministry. So there's all kinds. There's all kinds of parachurch
Yeah.
ministries. out
Anything you
there.
could think of.
Yeah, and you think of an organization like Frontiers, which they exist to deploy Christians into Muslim environments to share the gospel. You've got all kinds of groups that do all kinds of different things.
Yeah. And all they're typically categorized, they're Christians. They're Christian organizations.
Yeah, parachurch Christian organizations, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But they're not the church.
No, they're not.
Okay. That's good.
They're not. Yeah.
So it's no surprise. I'm not telling anybody anything new by saying we're like excited about all those. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
But there's
There's
lots of needs in the world.
There's a lot of need.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of people who have specific expertise
Yeah.
so that they can actually do something. Like, I can't, like if someone came and said, I want to go to the Muslim world, I wouldn't say, well, let's figure out how to do it.
Yeah. You'd be like, go to Frontiers.
I'd be like, well, we can help you with
Yeah.
the discipleship. We can help you with evangelistic training. We can help you with your character, whether you're qualified to go. Just because you hop on a plane doesn't mean that you're ready to evangelize, right?
Mm.
And so are you a blessing here? If you're a blessing here, chances are you'd be a blessing elsewhere.
Yeah.
Now, then when it comes to deployment and training and enculturization and all those kinds of things that are associated with being in another culture, we don't know that stuff. You know,
Right.
we would rely on other organizations to be able to help that person get prepared to go.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. Just to clarify one more thing, and I think it would be helpful to understand the theological concept of ecclesiology.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
It means the function of the church.
Yeah, the
essentially.
study of the church.
Study
so,
of the
right?
church.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what that word means. And so when you ask about ecclesiology, what are you shooting for?
I'm shooting for that. I think it's related.
Yeah.
It's related because this is a parachurch, something that helps with the
Comes
ministry. It
alongside,
comes
right?
alongside the church, but it's not the church. So how do we think about?
Yeah, so there's lots of extremes that you can fall off the wagon in two different ways. One, no parachurch ministry has any validity, which we wouldn't say that.
Right.
Two, the other side is a parachurch ministry that eclipses the need for the local church for the Christian. Both of those are wrong.
So those are the two ends of the spectrum.
Those are the two extremes
Yeah.
on both sides, right?
Yeah.
And so at the best, the parachurch ministry comes alongside local churches to assist them. At the worst, the parachurch ministry makes it to where they either communicate this explicitly or, in their culture that you don't need to be a part of a local church. And so both we're against all parachurches, we can do everything on our own, and on the other side, the parachurch that says you don't need the church, both those sides are wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And so like that's how I would sort of navigate
great.
that. And some of that's case by case, right?
Yeah.
And because a lot is maybe an exaggeration, but there's a number of parachurch organizations out there that are not actually Christian. And they don't actually support the church. They're doing other things. And so it's worthwhile just to recognize, okay, let me see who leads this organization. What's their accountability structure?
Yeah.
Because like, for example, a Christian school could be wonderful. But the accountability structure is a board and not a church, and there's strengths and weaknesses with that, right?
Mhm.
And so like, how do we, you have to like look into all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
to determine, whether this is a good fit for you and your family.
No, that's great. I think just defining and distinguishing between the church and parachurch is a good start, and that'll help us as I read through some of these questions.
And maybe one other thing is that you can choose to be a part of a parachurch organization. That's fine. There's freedom.
Yeah.
But you must, if you're a Christian, be a part of a local church. Those are
okay.
two different things.
Yeah. So one is mandated and the other is optional.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'll start with this one. And there's 10. I'm not gonna read all of them, but I'm gonna pick out ones that are kind of go together in some way.
Sure.
And the order could go either way, but
That's fine.
I think I'll just start with, do you see biblical precedent for parachurch organizations, or are they more of a modern development? So this is kind of touching on history.
Yeah. I mean, historically, they start really showing up in the 18 and 1900s. They didn't exist to the same degree back before that. There were societies that were set up in the 18th century, societies which we would call something like small groups or prayer groups, or things people would do outside of church to be able to fellowship together. Is it biblical? It's It's biblical if it's really supportive of the local church, right? And so there's no verse we can point to that says thou shalt not or thou shalt create or not create a parachurch organization, right? And so some of that's just the freedom that we have as Christians to be able to determine.
So it's wisdom.
Yeah, it's a wisdom issue, right? And so you could argue that some parachurch things going on there with like the monastic orders that were begun in, way, way back. So like, even if you think about, this is sort of blow your mind kind of mentality here, but, small group ministry as a whole in churches was not mainstream even as late as the 1950s and 60s. So in the 1960s, that whole idea starts.
Okay.
So there were societies that organized into what was like a small group structure to encourage people in godliness. And so if you think about what a parachurch is, it's not a church. So do you remember what the definition of a church? 3 things.
Yeah. Administration of the sacraments.
Right administration, sacraments.
Yeah. Church discipline.
Practice church discipline.
And church membership?
No, right preaching of the word.
Oh, preaching of the word, yeah.
Yeah. And so those 3, that marks out. That's so good. You missed the big one. Yeah.
Wow. I got church discipline, but I missed preaching of the word.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but so that's what a church is. A church does those things. So for example, if a church doesn't practice church discipline, it's not a faithful church. And a parachurch organization, by definition, they're not practicing the sacraments, and they're certainly not practicing church discipline, or they shouldn't be. And so
sometimes they're preaching the word.
Sometimes, depending on what it is. Some of them are mercy. Some of them are mercy. Some of them are mercy focused. Some of them are service focused. Some of them, and all of them have a place.
Yeah.
If they're encouraging their people to also be a part of local churches too.
That's great. No, that's good. So this one's kind of, what unique strengths do parachurch ministries bring that local churches sometimes can't?
Specialization is the big word there. I mean, that's
money.
Sometimes money, sometimes specialization. I mean, that's the key word, right?
Yeah.
And so parachurch organizations can specialize in a way that churches can't.
Yeah.
Or are called to.
Most of them do specialize.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the distinct markers of a parachurch organization is the specialization.
Yeah.
And so that's,
they get really, really good at one thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
That's great.
And that's a huge blessing.
You might have answered this one. Some of these are in more rapid fire style.
Sure.
But what dangers or weaknesses do you see in parachurch ministries if they operate apart from the local church?
2, one, that people who are associated with them can decide that's my church and not be a part of a church.
So replacing the church with their parachurch.
Exactly. I mean, people do that with all kinds of things. The gym.
Yeah.
Sports, everything,
money,
all kinds of stuff. Right. And so I think, so that's a danger. So I think the parachurch organizations need to make sure that their people are really meaningfully involved in a local church. Another danger is accountability, right? And so that could be a danger in a local church too, but accountability to make sure that, everybody is like, for example, if you think about what the organization, the leadership organization of a local church, it's elders. So you see this in 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1. Their qualifications for elders are mostly character with one exception, teaching. Yeah. Right? Now, in a parachurch organization, that same character does not necessarily always apply, right? And so the qualifications could be completely different, right? Yeah. And so maybe a big parachurch organization has someone that's really good in organization, and he or she functions like a CEO, but doesn't have sort of the requisite character that they would need to be an elder, right?
Yeah.
And may not really have any spiritual oversight or accountability, right? And so that's a danger as well. And so, and I think you just have to watch out for those kinds of things.
Yeah, no, that kind of takes us right into the next one surrounding accountability. What accountability structures should parachurch organizations have to make sure that they serve rather than compete with churches?
I mean,
Maybe you have an example. You might have a good example
question.
too.
I mean, I think it's so hard to paint with a broad brush on these
Yeah.
kinds of things because there are some.
They're all different.
Yeah, they're all different, and I think it really boils down to just making sure there's genuine accountability. It can look a lot of different ways. There's a genuine connection to local church,
Yeah.
and that they encourage those that are participating to really be involved in a local church, right? I think that's what it is, right? And one of the things, like, I know there's a place for parachurch organizations to exist sort of out there away from local churches, but I also think it's good and worthwhile to have, like you mentioned, Hope for Addiction and P82. Those have emerged from the personality of our church, where we have an organization that is helping people kick and defeat and mortify, to use a biblical term, addiction, right? And we help them with a place to live. That's inside our church. That ministry emerged from our church. And we have Liz Beck, who leads Hope for Addiction, as a specialist who is spearheading that effort, right? But Liz is very much accountable to us. She's very much connected to us. I'm actually on the board of that organization. And so all of those things are things where you see them work, where that parachurch organization is working hand in glove with us and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. And so that, I like those kinds of things, right? And so it's not technically a ministry of our church. It's a parachurch organization that's really connected, meaningfully connected to our church.
Yeah.
And I think, that's one of the ways I've seen it work well. There's other ways that don't work as well, where you have, them being just complete freelance all by themselves out there. And they don't have any spiritual connection or covering. I think that can be dangerous.
Yeah. No, that's good. So this next one is kind of around finances. Why do you think parachurch ministries often have broader resources and reach than many local churches?
Because I think that they specialize so much and people can identify with that specialization. They can say to themselves, man, I got saved on a campus, and so I'm going to give money to that campus ministry so that other people get saved. And so the local church ministry is not as, there's lots of, not as much sizzle as parachurch, right? It's not as sexy. People aren't thinking, man, local church, that's where it's at. You've got,
it's very ordinary.
It's very ordinary, very common. And people are, because in the United States, we can pick what gym we go to, what restaurant we go to. We have a cafeteria choice of all kinds of different things. And so what we want to do oftentimes is focus on those those ministries, those specializations that are near and dear to our heart, which is good. But it shouldn't eclipse our devotion call and servanthood in the local church, I would say.
That's good. Yeah. And so this one's kind of just my question. How do you rightfully balance your participation in the local church with optional participation in a parachurch? I think
that's a conscience issue. I think if there are times where you should, it depends on what the call is. Like, I would say that the first priority to members of any local church, wherever that may be, is that they first give to their local church, and then they give to parachurch organizations, and not the other way around. I would say that they first serve at a local church and not if you're serving at a parachurch organization and not your local church, something's wrong.
Yeah.
If you're giving to a parachurch organization and not your local church, something's wrong. If your heart's more connected to that parachurch organization and not the local church, something's wrong. But that doesn't mean you can't really serve, give, and be connected to those things.
To both, yeah.
It's just a matter of priorities.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And then this one, I think, is just more personal for you. Have you seen parachurch ministries play a significant role in your own life or the life of people in our congregation?
Yeah, I've seen people who have been equipped and trained to be able to cross cultures, to go evangelize go and be missionaries and evangelists and church planners other places. Absolutely. And I've seen that. I've seen, like we have in Sovereign Grace. We're a denomination, but to some degree, there's some parachurch-like connections to where you train the pastor's college, you're training somebody to go and plant a church or be a member of the team, a pastoral team. Absolutely. I've seen that. I've seen it with, there's lots of good organizations out there with like, Christian finance and things like that where, they've helped us over the years. And, so me personally, I didn't get involved in a campus ministry because I was involved in our local church when I was going to college. And it wasn't even a category for me. I don't know why, but I just didn't even look into it because I was just connected and serving at our church, And so I would say I've talked to people who it's been very meaningful for, and it's like they have a lot, their heart really beats in that direction. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that mine does in that way. My heart beats for our church.
No, that's good. That's really good. I don't think there's any more. I think that we hit most of them.
I had a question.
Yeah, go for it.
So when you're talking about these parachurch ministries and how they're kind of specialized, are these things that the church should be doing in general? I mean,
it depends. Like some of them, I think it's a bridge too far. Like if you think of because should's a big word,
right?
Like could a local church like ours get somebody ready to go to a Muslim country?
Right.
Not
really.
with the language, not with the language, right. Not with the culture.
Especially if there's already an organization that does this well, why would we do that? Like, right. Why would we put our foot in that?
I think that the question like is what should we be about? What is our mission? Right? To grow together as a body. So it's discipling, right? Mm-hmm. To sit under the preaching of the word and the teaching of the word, right? So then I would say those things are primary, right? The ministry of the word is primary at a local church, right? And so the local church, I think, has the primary responsibility for discipleship, evangelism, but there can be supplements.
So then my biggest question is about marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, marriage is a huge part of our church and most every church that I know of, but I would love to see some kind of an organization about marriage that helps our members.
Yeah.
And should I don't know, I'm using that word again, but is that something that is the responsibility of the church, or is it the responsibility of a church member to create or bring in?
Well, like think about the normal ministry of the church when it comes to marriage. When there's trouble, there's counseling. So we have counseling that we offer for free.
Sure, and we see that. That is very evident in our church, yes.
Small group ministry. One of the reasons we have small group ministry is to make sure that we have
having
come alongside people in their marriages, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Men's and women's ministry, which we have both of, it's to help equip each as disciples that will help marriages, right?
Sure.
Premarital counseling, right? And so there's all those kinds of things. Now, when it comes to because oftentimes the marriage parachurch organizations are designed for people in crisis, usually. Now there's seminars and stuff. We've done tons of them. We could do more. Like we're doing a women's seminar this year, and we could do a marriage one next year, maybe. And so like those kinds of things are good. And, that's why it's good. Maybe it's a good supplemental thing to go out and do a, marriage workshop somewhere.
Sure.
But, they wouldn't have more skills or more expertise, say, than we would in that area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But I wouldn't say it's wrong to go do that.
Okay. Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm thinking about things like things that you want to have be a part of your church. I mean, we talk about what is the sign of a healthy church? We know what that is, but then there's also beyond those three things.
Yeah.
Things that, if I had children and youth, I would obviously want a good youth program.
Right.
If I have, young children, I want to make sure there's some sort of preschool program or something, right? So I'm married.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I want to make sure there's a good marriage program because I don't want to get to the point of we need counseling.
Right.
I want to work on those things ahead of time. And I think that's true of the addiction, the Johnny and Friends with the people who need help physically and
and our most fundamental relationships are ones that I think the Bible equips us, and the preaching of the word should equip us And because like, if we're right with God, it's easier to be right with our spouse.
Oh, 100%.
And so like, I don't think any organization does that better than a local church. And so if we're right with God, and if we're in, having a good relationship with the Lord right now, then it's going to be much more likely that we'll be good with our spouse. For example, if we're aware of all that we've been forgiven of, it's a lot easier to forgive.
Right.
If we are aware of all the mercy we've received, it's a lot easier to extend mercy. And so like those, I think that kind of week by week preaching of Christ and him crucified, and the reality of grace, and the scandal of mercy, and the generosity of God, those things impact us as individuals, as Christians, and that impacts us as disciples, as husbands, as wives, as dads and moms, and as grandparents and great-grandparents and kids. And because I want to be careful not to sort of break us all. Like we don't have to chop all our lives up in like little parts. Like there's this part of me, there's this part of me, there's this part of me. I'm a disciple that follows Jesus. And if I'm following Jesus, it's going to help me in my marriage, and my spouse is going to be better off that way, right? And so could we have a marriage like, a marriage,
just supplemental?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Whatever, we could, And could you go get like a checkup somewhere? Yeah, sure, that's great. Those are great things, but there's no substitute, I would say.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
Good. Yeah, I might clip that because that was pretty good. I won't send it to you though because you won't watch it. But.
I will not.
That's great.
Thanks, Heather.
That's good question.
Yeah, if you have questions, let us know. Where do they just yell out into the ether, or what do they do?
So, okay. Or maybe production@centergilbert.com.
I don't think that's a good move right there. That
She nailed it last time, and I'm just trying to see what level she's at. She's already higher than I think, but
okay, all right. Well, if you have questions about any of this, and thank you, Anonymous. Anonymous sent 10 questions in. Well done. There's the bell for you, and in your honor. If you wonder for whom the bell tolls for Anonymous on this episode.
Well, thanks for tuning in. If you have questions about this, like you said, production@centergilbert.com.
All right. We'll see you next time. The Macarena. Yay, Macarena.
That was great. That is definitely good.